Barefoot Bruisers. I'm Sautu Dave. This is a rebladed kickstand. So, believe it or well, you know, this whole thing has always been like my knife journey, right? More or less like video documentation of my knife journey, more or less, however you want to look at it. Sharing the community, being a positive aspect of the community, or trying to be anyhow. So I guess this whole video, the whole process, everything from pretty much here forward is just going to be the same. It's just my lens of which I'm viewing it now is now changing to more of a maker. So a lot of things change. I'm gonna go over a little bit of that here in a second. But first thing I want to do is have gratitude towards everybody that encouraged me to do the reblades, and those of you who have picked one up. Those of you who are gonna support me on the Sautu project, which I'll go over those names that I have and make sure I don't miss nobody. So if I didn't say your name, you let me know. But yeah, neither one of the, well, aside from the Reese Wheelan I did for Tomas, these are the two favorite ones I've ever done, was this kickstand and the Crusader Forge. And both of them in 3V, both of them, like, they're the knives that I would buy personally. So like, if no one else is buying them, but I'm making myself happy, that's fine. Like I've achieved the goal. So they're not in on the market. I'm taking them off the market. I'm keeping them because I like them that much anyhow. But I also realize that it's time to move on and kind of more make my own stuff, and that's kind of why I've gotten a couple people ask about, you know, doing a project here, but doing a project there. Those were going to be my last reblades. I offered the reblade of that K390 in Cosi, and actually two guys both had interest in it, but I have a lot of respect for both the guys. So I'm going to make a both one, so I order some more stock. So I may do a few more CRKs. One's going to be a Zon, and one's going to be the Nkosi, which is going to be cool because it gives me two different avenues to kind of play with, explore, whatever else. The stock that I ordered from that, I don't know, I may have extra, and I may just leave it on the shelf, and I may do more of those. They seem to be more popular. Like, the more popular knives kind of move faster. I'm going to turn this just a little bit because it's glaring in my face. I don't know if I can get it out or not. Oh well. I may do more of those, but as far as like other reblades, that sort of stuff, I'm going to do my own stuff from this point forward. I think it just makes more sense. The stuff that I'm doing that's pleasing me is not moving, and I don't really at this point don't want to do. It's not that I'm not interested in doing CRKs, because actually I have a small normal blades. That's probably one of my favorite brands and manufacturers. I'm just going. I gotta explore and kind of push myself a little bit more. So the main part of this video is going to be basically going over my process of how I'm doing the Sautus. Yeah, so like, there's a lot of things like this whole doing a like slow, if you want to call it a slow run or whatever else. I'm only set up to do 6, but I wanted to do all the 6 kind of like with this fixture that I kind of sort of had envisioned to help me. Will I do this in the future? I don't know. Is there reasons or ways to do this better? Yes. If you've ever machined or been a machinist for any length of time, like every single machinist has a different thought process of how they would do things. The final result is whether you did it right or not. So like a lot of people would, hey, I wouldn't do that, or I would do this, or I'd make it out of this, or I'd do that. That's fine. You do it however you want to do it. I'm just showing you guys like a way of that I did it. Okay. So it's been, last Thursday, I started from raw stock titanium, and then this Thursday. At this point, let me take the pins out of this guy so you guys can see it. At this point, I got lock sides and scale sides matched. So hopefully you can see that the pattern's the same in them. So I got insides marked where the insides are and the outsides. So you can see that I got, this is basically the pivot hole, the stop pin hole, and one standoff. Why'd I do one standoff? Did I not bring the other scale in? I guess I didn't. I'll just show you on this one. I kind of went over it in the video a little bit, but the main reason I only did one is because it locates it here, so that I can change the whole back of this however I want to in my thought process of doing this, like in designing it, thinking about it, more or less what I'm talking about. As this point shouldn't get in the way. It's pretty high, so like no matter what I'm doing, even if it's a Warren cliff, I can kind of angle it towards that the longest part of the knife, but I can change the profile of the back of this and not have to worry about whether this screw's in the way or not. So I can put the screw up here. You know, I can make a backspacer versus a standoff. There's a million different ways of thinking about how I want to do this. Like I can make the tip higher or lower depending on what the back of the knife looks like. So I don't want to do beyond that, because that part I wanted to keep stock Sautu, if that makes sense. One second, I got sneezed. Started all the rain and stuff. Well, it's not been raining that much, but like when it does start raining here, my allergies get crazy here. Excuse me. So anyhow, let me go over the names that I got so far. So if your name's on this list and you wanted a Sautu, please let me know. So I got Justin, T-Mac, Denise, Evan, Allison, Steve, Tomas, Knife Nerd, which I think is Jason. That's your real name, I think. And then Anthony S. There's another Anthony that I talked to, but he goes by a different name, but this is not him. This is a different Anthony. And Anthony has bought stuff from me before. All right, so there's 9 of you guys. I said I was going to do a lottery for 6. And thinking about it, I'm like, you know what? I'll just do 3 more. Like, everybody might as well get something they want. Like, this is not such a big operation. It's not that big a deal. So the thing is, like, who's got to wait, who goes first, that sort of thing. And even brother Nick Edwards said he might want one too, so that might be 10. But you know, I kind of want to make one to kind of show what I'm thinking, to see if there's interest in, you know, I'm not asking for money down or nothing like that. But in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, okay, there may be 1 or 2 people at the end of this goes, that's not really what I want, and pass on it, and then maybe hopefully somebody else will pick it up. So I don't know number-wise whether it'll be in there. So if you're not in a rush, please let me know if you want to be on the second run, whatever you want to call it. You know, it's going to be the second series of this. So if you want something that I don't have material-wise, like if you wanted, I think I got enough to make 1 3V and 1/4 inch thick. All the rest of them are going to be a little thinner than that. Like the Magna Cut's like 212. The I don't know what the M4 is. The other Magna Cut I got is 3/16. Then the other 3Vs are around the 200 thou. So like they're varying thicknesses, so they're not all going to be the same. But if one of those don't appeal to you, or you want some other kind of steel that I got to order, I'm gonna put you on the second go at this. And like I said, all I've done is the titanium. At this point, I'm going to build them one at a time, I think. And there's things that I'm going to go through and ask you guys as collectively. So like this particular scale was one of the ones that I did when I had the CNC stuff. So obviously this feature is not going to be on the other scales, but I may do the lay down sanding marks where it kind of looks more, I don't know, it looks different. It looks more like, if you're familiar with Scorpion 6, he does it a lot. Dan does it a little bit in DSK, but the one I'm envisioning is more like the Scorpion 6, where it's kind of more angled. You know, that's just done on the belt sander. And then the jimping up top, whether I do or don't do the jimping, I'm going to leave that kind of, guys, up to you. I personally don't think that I would want to put the jimping on it, so I may do it like on a case by case. Like this first one I'm going to call T-Max, okay? Because he had the scale and he wanted it. This is actually not the same one he's going to send me, but he wanted, you know, to use his original scale that I modded to put this on another Sautu. So, you know, I got to do what's already on this. So the hardware that I'm going to do for this, the stop pin I'm going to use for this, everything on this one is going to be unique to this one. All the rest of them, I've already got other ideas in my mind, and I'm going to kind of work. Okay. So let me show you the what I've done, like from week to week. I was saying it was Thursday to Thursday, so I started this Thursday. Today is Friday morning, but I haven't actually done anything in the shop yet. It's like, I don't know, 7 or something. So let me stop it here, show you what I've got in the video. I'm sure there are going to be questions of why I did things the way I do, and hopefully in the future, as I keep going, I'm going to try to document the process a little bit as I go. It'll make more sense. The thing that I didn't mention in the video, or maybe I mentioned it, but I kind of briefly mentioned in the whole thing, is on every position I go to do those holes, especially on the first op, it's center drill, pilot drill, drill, and ream. Every single one of them. So it's 4 operations per position per piece of titanium, so it's 12. So 48 steps, more or less, if you want to look at it. None of these steps are, when you machine tie, you can't really go quick. Like, especially manually, you have to feel it, you have to go slow, and then when your drill gets dull, there's no point of pushing it. You're just going to work hard on it. You got to change drills and go on. So it's a slow process. So for those of you who look at this and go, that's a whole week worth of work. Yeah, that's how long it take me to do it. Like, will I get faster in the future? Probably, but as of right now, that's the process. Like, I'm still thinking through what I want to do. Like, I made the choice of deleting that one extra standoff or backspacer hole. Trying to think through the process. Obviously, none of these are counterbore, so the hardware I didn't have to do the counterbores like you would have on a stock scale. Like this counterbore's here, and the counterbore's here. I didn't have the hardware as I was machining it out there. Kind of knew what size they were going to be, but kind of knowing and knowing are two different things. So I wanted to get the hardware here, measure it, make sure I can modify it or, you know, change it how I wanted to change it to make it work for the operation that I want. Hopefully that makes sense. All right, so let me stop here and cut you into this other video. All right, sorry about the handheld. I'm updating you on the titanium. So I think I take pictures before. So I had this is a huge sheet, so it was 6 inches wide. I don't know how long it was, 24 inches, whatever it was. But I cut it into these relatively close to 2-inch tight rectangles. And then I stood it up and hard jaws and decked one side and flipped it over and decked the other side. And this is for two reasons. The first is so I could hold it to try to deck the top of this end vise. Hopefully you can see the mill marks in it. More or less fly cut, but I'm using a face mill. And then the second is I want to use a 3-point fixture so that I can kind of sort of do all the operations on all these, like say the pivot hole on one operation and then go to the next operation. Just have one setup instead of doing it, you know, I don't know how many times, 12 times. Instead of doing it 12 times, we're just going to do it on one and then kind of move to the next, or maybe 6 depending on like the scale side versus the lock side. I'll get to that in the future video. But upon milling these, when I mill it, I can actually, like if I climb mill versus conventional mill, if I do the transverse cut on the same path, you can actually see it taking more material as the titanium's kind of warping as it's cutting. So what that told me is it has a lot of stress in the actual material. So this material, all the material that I'm getting is like the thicker stuff. Like this is, I think it was 220,000. This particular block came from Alpha Knife Supply, but you can buy them from various sources. And I've tried different sources to see if it was different, but it seems like that most of the thicker titanium, when you order like a certain drop of it, they're not shearing it, they're cutting it, and it looks like it's either plasma or torch cut. It could possibly be a rough laser cut and that sort of thing, but I doubt it. It's not precision cut, and it's got slag on it, so you have to kind of clean it a little bit before you go. It's just one of those procedures. So they're putting stress into the material as they're cutting it. So what I try to do was basically deck both sides. So there's these kind of sort of, as a rule, when you get like raw bar stock, if you skim both sides of it, it kind of lets the stress out of it and it lets it do what it wants to do. So the only sides I haven't cut on these would be the end cuts. So other than that, I've cut these ends and both faces, if you look at it that way. So now what I did, you see it's kind of brownish in here, so what I did was put this on an anneal cycle in the oven, which I can't remember the exact, I want to say it was like 1250 for like 2 hours, and then you just let it cool room temperature. And now I'm going to take it back out there and try to skim cut with a face mill and see how it goes, and then probably end up going in here and sanding on it a good bit. But this is kind of like in process, and hopefully as I've talked and I've put other pictures in or maybe video that I've taken already and kind of make this into a video so you can kind of see more of the progress. Alright, we're still on the handheld. So this morning I showed you that the scales all look like, so I basically took them all to the mill. I just decked them like a half thou, and then, you know, let them cool down and turn them and decked them another half thou, which gets us still a mill pattern, but you know, we're trying to get flatness is the main thing here. I came in here and put them on the sander and sanding them all to try to get them flat. They're not 100% parallel, so you can see on this one how I've got it, I mic'd it and marked it, so you can see it's a little bit bigger. This is what happens when you sand. You know, you put it up against the sander, the edges take a little bit, so you usually get a little bit of a crown. So you can see this one's 193 on those corners, 194 in the middle, and 192 on this side. So it's ever so slightly crowned. It's going to be like 1 or 2 thou. It's really not going to matter. You see I've also got them marked inside. So what I've done is kind of sort of, I don't have a way, to check flatness properly, you should do it on a surface plate with 3 points, with the indicator pointing up, and you sweep around it, and then you get flatness. I don't have the way of checking that. So kind of
guess cheaper way of doing it is you can use granite or like something that's precision ground. So this is an old jaw. Let's see if you can see the lines in it. Hopefully, maybe you can see the lines in it. But anyway, it's precision ground, so it's flat. I think this is guaranteed to be flat within half the hour or something like that. So it's really fat. So I take this and I put it on it, and I take a light and look up underneath it. So if you got a little bit, let's say the material is like crowned, you'll be able to see light through the middle of it. And then most of the time what you see, especially on these, the way they're done, is you'll see like a little bit of air here and a little bit of air here, but it's nice and flat in the middle. So just taking the side that's the most flat to put down. So how I'm planning on machining this. This is one of those scales that I had CNC. Let me move this block for a second. We're going to put this on a fixture, these plates, and there's going to be a point here and 2 points here. You know, this will make sense after I start the fixture. And then I'm going to start with just the pivot hole. So this is just going to be just the pivot hole. We'll do all the features on that, or the pivot hole and maybe the counterboard for the pivot. I haven't got the hardware yet, so doubt that'll happen right away. It'll probably be just a pivot. So just that 1/4 inch hole on all of these. And then we'll move to the next spot, which will be the stop pin. So I'll get the stop pin hole located, sweep it in, mark the fixture, and then all these will get the stop pin holes. It's just a way to locate them all. It'll make sense as I start going. But I want the most flat side, the one that's inside, down. So as the knife sits here, everything on the inside is this. So we're machining it from the outside. Hopefully this makes sense to you all. So we're machining it straight down like this. So on the inside of this one, there's no counterbores. Like if you have bearings, sometimes they do counterbores for the bearings and stuff like that. We're going to do all the bearing counterbore stuff on the blade, so the titanium stays full thickness. At least that's the plan for right now. That could change. I could have to get the hardware and all that stuff and look at it, but that's sort of the game plan right now. So I can machine all the features in this. Like if I want jimping, I can cut all the jimping in it, which some may and some may not. I don't know. There's probably more of an option. I can change. So instead of putting 2 standoffs in it, like if someone wants, say, a Warncliffe blade, they want that blade to come in a little deeper, I can change the whole position back here in the standoffs. But these 2 positions are going to stay the same in all of these. And so then you can kind of sort of see where I'm aiming at here. So I basically got 12 pieces. I got to do 12 this way, and then basically if this was a lock side, it'd be, you know, on the outside, but 12 this way. Or no, excuse me, 6 one way and 6 the other way. So you have basically 2 different halves. So basically the fixture that I'm going to make is going to be everything, all the features to locate everything are going to be through. So that when I take the fixture and flip it, I can basically do one side and then the other side. Hopefully it'll make sense. After you see it, after you see the process on it, you'll see what I mean, and hopefully it'll all work out. But I gotta cut some aluminum out of plate to make it start make the fixture. So this will be a whole nother ordeal. But this is just stock prep from raw titanium to this. We're talking about almost, well, 2.5, well, yeah, 3 days. 3 days to get it from raw stock to this. And this is just bar stock. So this is just stock prep. I haven't done anything to make a knife yet other than make it flat. Alright, I'm trying to make this brief because it's hot in here. I'll get that fan going back on in a second here. Alright, so this, I was taught you about making a 3-point fixture. I'm going to try to show you this as clear as I can. That might be better. Okay. So, this is a 1/4 inch pivot, so it's drilled and reamed a 1/4 inch. 3/16 stop pin, at least it's a 3/16 through hole. So we got a 3/16 pin here. Same with the hardware back here. 3/16 and 3/16. It's not necessarily what I'm going to do, is what's on this stock fixture. This will make sense in a second. Okay, so let me pull the pins out of here and let you guys kind of see why I did what I did and why I call it a 3-point fixture. So you can see I kind of traced around a little bit there, so you can kind of sort of see the shape of the scale of what it's going to be. Hopefully you can still see that. I'm trying to grab the pins as we speak, so bear with me here 1 second. It's kind of on the other table behind me. All right, so I'm going to take these pins, these are actually old end mills that are broken, so you know, you guys that break end mills like me, you have extra stuff, go ahead and reuse some of that stuff. Obviously you saw the pins that I was using were broke end mills too, so now you can see I got a pin here, pin here, pin here. So what I try to do is when I put this stock in here and slide it to those pins, hope you can see in this backside that it's just inboard of that. So I know from these 2 sides, hopefully you see that side too, maybe you can, okay. So from those 2 sides that I'm good on the overall, I have enough material to do that, but I'm really close to this and really close to that side. So when I pull this material off, you can see that this is one of the shorter ones I have. Hopefully you can see it. You can see how right I'm backing up, sorry. Sorry about the handheld. I don't know if you can see it or not. Let me see if I can get over here and show you better. Focus, man. Maybe you can see it. There's like a little black spot right here, marker. Damn it, man. There it goes. All right, see that little black spot right there? So the magic marker is obviously on the outside, so that's how close I am to coming without having enough stock for that side, right? So this way, what I do is I'm gonna put all these, obviously this is labeled the lock side, so I had the lock side there a second ago. What did I do with it? Yeah, so you can see that this is gonna make that design. The 1/4" pivot hole here, the stop pin here, and the 2 standoffs for these spacers here. Obviously I'm not doing the lanyard. I still haven't accommodated for a pocket clip yet, but all that stuff's in the future. That's why we made the fixture, so we could go back on and relocate and kind of repeat the same basic pattern in all these. So now the first step is going to be, for me, is going to do the pivots in all of these. So I'll do the 1/4" pivot in all of these, but I'm drilling it in a position where I know I have enough stock around the whole thing that I can cut these, because my stock's different heights here, because I just cut it out with a grinder. It's not like it's bar stock, which is all pretty similar this way. But the length-wise, this was the length that it came in, so I know the length is pretty close. So I don't really have to worry about the length as much as I have to worry about the height. And this piece is one of the shorter ones, so that's why I'm starting with this one. So hopefully that'll make sense. So as I go, I'll do all the pivot holes. The next important thing is going to be the stop pin relationship to the pivot. So I'll go ahead and ream all the stop pins. At that point, I can take this like right the way it is right now. As I drill and ream the 1/4", I can put the 1/4" pin in it, and then use just the 1 pin on the end to kind of locate where it is. It's basically, it's going to be sliding, you know, to locate it and make sure I got enough, and then I'll do that hole. Once those 2 are in there, basically I don't need the pins anymore, and I could just put the thing back on there. The more holes I drill, the more positions it has, and the tighter it locks everything in. Then once everything's locked in, all the holes are in position, it's repeatable. I can take it on and off. I can put it back on, do a counterboard, and do with counterboards and all of them. Hopefully this makes sense to all you guys, but I figured I'd just take it along, show you the basic process and why I call it the 3-point fixture. All right, so the first step on this is already center drill, and ream. You can see this right here. These are the dimensions I got lined up. So this is a 294 or 249 4. It goes in no problem. 294/7 or 249/7, should I say. That goes through, no problem too. It's hard to show this one-handed, but and the next one is 250 and 1/10, so that's 1/10 oversized than what I'm looking for. I'm looking for 250, and it doesn't go. Hopefully you can see that. It just barely starts because of that chamfer. See the chamfer that's on it? It barely starts because of that chamfer. So what I know is it's between 249/7 and 250 and 1/10. So it's somewhere in the middle of that, which is pretty much perfect what we want for. Most of the pivots I order are 249/6, 249/8, somewhere in that area. So that's perfect, exactly what we're looking for. All right, so I flipped the fixture over, did a little bit of work on the fixture, which I'll go over at the end, I guess. I got all the pivot holes drilled in them, and now I'm working on the stop pin hole. So the reason I stopped to do this is because it's got to be a little bit different, because you're in the fixture, the true position is not going to be 100% right. It's going to be close, but not right. So basically what I have to do is every single one of them, I have to put this one I couldn't, but on this one, put the pin in the scale that is already done, this scale, slipped around to it, stop, put the pin in this other hole too. So I got a pin in the pivot hole and a pin in this hole, and I'm sweeping this hole to make sure it's 100% exactly where it's supposed to be with the X and Y locks already done. So when I put this fixture on and swing it to the same position, it'll be 100% perfect. So this is the example of it. So you can see that the pins, these are gauge pins, but you can see that they're both go through there perfectly, and nice and solid. So the positions between these 2 holes are exactly right. The ones in the back don't matter as much because they're standoffs. I can open those up a little bit, let the standoff kind of slide in and out, but I still want to keep it tight. That's why I got the fixture, but I just wanted to explain that as I was going here.
So I said I was going to go over the fixture stuff, and I kind of forgot. So I'm coming back and kind of re-catching myself back up. So this is obviously not the right side because I want the inside down, but I'm just using this knife or this scale for reference. So you can see there's holes for the main positions that I'm trying to keep here. So this is a 1/4" through hole. So it's actually through the whole fixture, so I can flip it, and it's the same on both sides. But you know, it's basically taking the scale as I throw it and flip-flopping it. But a note for those that are actually machining stuff like this, it's a 1/4 inch through reamed, but then I reamed this top spot a bigger hole because I don't want any burrs or anything else, because I got to sweep this hole to locate this position as I'm changing. Same with every single position. So this actually is reamed 5/32 through, and then 1/8 inch counterbore on top. Same with both of these. I'm using different hardware here. The only exception would be the jimping, because I'm not really worried about the jimping. I actually cut it bigger. It's cut and reamed to a bigger size, and I'm drilling through it. So I can't remember what size I used, but whatever it is, I think I reamed this 5/32, and I'm actually drilling it with a smaller drill. And then these other holes are just 1/4 inch, 1/4 tap. This one I had some stock that was too thick, and it covered up these holes, so I'd have to poke another hole in it. So that's what that hole there's for. And then the 1/8 inch pins, I drilled undersize. 1/8 inch pins here. I drilled undersize, and then on the per side, because I'm not worried about precision, I just drilled it 1/8 inch. This fixture is decked both sides, and also, so both faces are parallel and both sides are parallel, just like you would in anything else. So that's just a brief, quick version of what's going on. Obviously, I have to, every time you take something on and off, you want to make sure it's flat and clean, all that other stuff. So I constantly having to take I just use a little ceramic on this one, so I'm using a little ceramic stone, ceramic, and then a little Scotch-Brite on top, and then wiping it all off. That's every single time. Same with the parts. I'm doing the same thing to the parts to put them on here to try to maintain somewhat of a consistent pattern in here. Will I be able to take one scale off one knife and put it on another knife? Probably not, but it's still going to be fairly close, where it'll all pretty much look the same, unless you get one side by side and then, oh, this one's slightly off from that one, but it'll still be pretty dang close, right? So that's the whole point of me using the fixture. Other point is, let me see if I can get this scale. Bear with me 1 second here. Sorry, I gotta pick this sucker up. Yeah, I know I need to clean too. I got mess everywhere. Let me turn it around so it makes more sense. As all these are still bar stock, thinking about it, so as I'm wanting to cut these features, I can come in here with an end mill and start cutting into this. I can rough cut the ends on the fixture, you know what I mean? So that's the reason the fixture is good. I can put stuff back on here and counterbore. So obviously these stock scales or the stock Sautu runs on a washer system, so I can come back here and counterbore for a bearing if I want to. That's the point for the fixture for me, is it gets me close, and then I can actually sweep the actual scale that I'm working on to get me dialed in perfectly. But this just gets me really, really, really close really quick. All right, quick explanation. All right, so it's Sunday morning, still working on my sports formula, greens and vitamins. So after watching all those videos, hopefully it gives you an idea of what it takes to where I'm at in the journey of making these things. So one thing I didn't mention in that video, which is kind of more of a forethought process for me anyhow, is with the face milling that I showed you in one of the earlier videos, my inserts went bad, and me being unprepared, not being in production, I didn't have any, so I had to order some inserts. Now I got plenty of inserts. So the titanium is thick right now. That started off from Alpha Knife Supply, as they called it, 220 thou, but usually when you buy titanium, 220 thou is the minimum, so it can get thicker than that. When you order 3/16 bar stock, it's usually 200 thou plus, and then you can grind it to 3/16. It's just generalized statement kind of thing. So a lot of those scales are super thick. I didn't have the inserts to cut it down the way I wanted to on the mill. A little bit risky now because it might possibly warp it as we go, but I had to do it somewhat of a process, which made sense to me. So now I asked the people who want the Sautus that already got the name on it. Let's just say the first 6. I don't know who the first 6 are going to be yet, but everybody who said they wanted a Sautu, I didn't know if you want the scales decked down to a normal, when I say normal, where did that, yeah, so a normal Sautu scale thickness is about 3/16 of an inch. The scales that I've gotten are about 200 thou to the tallest ones are 220 thou. So that's almost a 1/4 inch. So they're considerably thicker than what the stock Sautu is. The blade stocks I'm using are generally seeking about 3/6 of an inch, and I got some that are a 200 thou. So the 200 thou matched with the 200 thou would be fine to me, but if you use the 200 thou thick scale, without doing contouring, it's gonna look funny with a 3/16 blade in it, to me. So I can deck it down and keep it slab sides. We could put a slight contour in it and keep it looking 3/16 on the side, but have like a slight contour in it, or we could do a major contour. Kind of was my game plan when I walked into this. And then Medford released his new Praetorian, which he's doing the profiling in it. I know, like, you can't avoid, like, he's pretty much one of the people who started this real thick craze. Like, he's not the one, but he's one of the ones that started this whole really thick knives and blade stocks and that sort of thing. He's definitely one of the original people that I looked up to, at least, put it that way. And I hate the timing was just right where it was, but it is what it is. Like, I was thinking contour, and then he come out with, or, you know, obviously he'd been working on it, but like he comes out with the video on Friday, and I'm like, well, I don't know. So here we are. Obviously mine are gonna be hand contoured. They're not gonna be CNC contoured. And for anybody wondering, like, I think his video said it had an extra 2 hours of CNC time. That's doing pretty good, dude. The work he's doing, that style work, 2 hours. It's a lot of work to cut titanium into a nice, easy contour without, you know, potato chipping it up and make it look that good. So more power to Medford. Me personally, I'm not as interested in that process through production, but I'm not really into production either. But because I like the hand, when he used to do that stuff by hand, like even anybody that does it by hand, it's like direware. It's much more like, it has a different feel to it to me, and I my personal taste are more to the handmade versus the CNC made. But I get where a company has to do CNC made. It makes sense. You've got a bunch of CNCs laying around. You might as well load them up before you leave, press go, come back, and you have however many sets you did overnight waiting on you to take off, provided the tools didn't break. It makes sense, right? It definitely makes sense. But that's what I'd run it if it was my company anyhow. So I think moving forward, what I'm going to do is like one build at a time, or maybe like whoever kind of comes up with exactly what they want. I'm not trying to come up with the options list. I'm working on my phone as I was doing my other job. For some reason, like when I do this, I'm only focused on what I'm doing, and I'm not thinking ahead and thinking like broad picture thing. And when I do that, my mind can kind of get in the clouds, and I can kind of sort of think about things, and I do that. So the guys that are signed up, I'll be sending options or talking about options. I might just do a video next week, or I may do a video and just send it to the people that like are interested or aren't, or you know, are wanting to get a Sautu. But once again, I only got the material to do 6 right now, and then we'll move on and do whoever wants the next one. If you're still one of those people that are kind of undecided, let me know you're undecided, so before I close it out, I can kind of get back with you. But this will be the second week I've kind of informed, you know, the greater YouTube channel, which is, you know, I don't expect, there may be some people outside the channel that are interested, but like, I'm not going to promote this model as much as I will something when it's totally original. Like, this is my take. This is definitely one step above the reblades, because I am going to do a little reprofiling and using different hardware and changing some things that I want to change for me. But I want to give, you know, the guys who've been supporting me a long time thing. So like T-Mac, Justin, they're like probably if they're not the first 10, they're like at least the first, you know, a couple people who I knew, I think, I want to say via Instagram and then became YouTube buddies, but they could be just YouTube too. T-Mac, I'm pretty sure I knew him before I started collecting knives, and then we kind of, you know, I got out of the knife hobby for a little while. Then I got back into it, and I'm pretty sure I knew him. So that would have been, well, I think I got out of knives. I'm trying to remember the last blade show I was at. 2014, I couldn't walk, so I know I wasn't there. 2015, I think I was still recovering. So I think it was 2016 or 17 was the last blade show I went to, and then I kind of faded out of the collecting after that. And then I got back into it like 18, 19. So I was only out for a couple years. It seemed like it was more than that, but I guess it only was a couple years. Anywho, I'm just rambling at this point. It's at the end of the video. Who cares anyhow? So let's do this then. If you watched Steve's, what is it, Huskers halftime video yesterday, he was talking about like his interest in YouTube and why certain people kind of sort of have, I don't say ruined it, but kind of tainted it a little bit. I'm gonna expand upon that a little bit with some thoughts. So for me personally, like, if you're into knives, no matter what kind of knives you're into, we're knife bros. That's pretty much how it is for me. Like, I don't care If you're only collect $20 cheap Chinese knife, that's fine, or gas station knives. It don't matter to me. Like I don't care. We're knife pros first. That's the 100% the dividing thing. It's kind of like bikers. Like you can kind of divvy it up from there. But like if you look at the broad picture of how many people ride a motorcycle, like I'll wave to a scooter. I don't give a shit. He's on two wheels. He's risking his life as much as I am, even though he's on something that I wouldn't personally ride. It has no. It doesn't matter. We're still like we're in the same element, I guess you would. So I look at the same thing as knife guys. So me personally, I've always tried to be you can't always be like a positive, but I try to be somewhat of a like positive person as far as the channel goes and the outward look and stuff like that. So I received a video. I'm not gonna say who it's from or nothing like that, but it's a guy who mods knives, who I know people that know me have sent him stuff. And he just sent me a random video. I had unprovoked, I didn't ask him like that, and basically criticizing a maker's work. Be it right or wrong, it doesn't matter. But, you know, criticizing a maker's work, knowing he hadn't talked to the maker, and knowing the knife was modified. At least me knowing this, okay? So I don't know if he knew that or not. But there's nothing positive to be gained from something like that. I don't understand why. And I'm not going to mention the guy's name. So if he wants to mention his name and tell who he is, if he sees this video, that's on him. I don't care. But I'll stand by what I'm saying right here. If there's nothing positive, if you're not asking a question or you just want someone to say, okay, you did a good job by finding this, that's not really adding anything positive to the community or for the builder. Like if you got constructive criticism as in like, you know, this should be this way, this is how I would suggest you try to do it. Like you're giving the maker, you know, I don't know, whatever. And some makers are open for suggestions like that, and some won't be. I know I gotta go thicker skin. I know me personally. When people are like, "Oh, I didn't know you could machine," I'm like, "You obviously have never watched my channel before," because you know I've talked about it a million times. I did a rant, like probably one of my most popular videos is a rant about Jack Hoback, and I talked about machining then. That was what 4 years ago or something. I don't know how long ago it was, but like I just always think that's funny. Like anyhow, like. I'm just going to just say that, you know, if you strive to be positive, the world will be better. If you dwell on the negative, the world will be negative. So to the guys who really like to inspect knives and want to find the last details, there is a career waiting for you. It's an inspector, i.e. a turd sniffer, as we used to call them as machinists, because those who can't do, inspect. Not that all of them can't do, but that's just the general rule. The best inspectors are the ones who can't do the job, that just go, hey, I can do the paperwork that goes along with it. So yeah, there's a good job for you, and those jobs pay a lot, and there's a lot of stress in that shit, and it's a needed job. 100% is. But that's a positive way you can spend that. If that's what you're really into, you geek out on taking a mic and, you know, finding exact like how many tenths this thing is off from flatness. By all means, become an inspector. Learn some more metrology. Learn how to program the CMM, and become sorry, I was socks with a flyby there. She jumped like literally right in front of you. See her tail come through. But yeah, becoming an aerospace inspector, it's a great career. You could make a ton of money doing that stuff. You know, put your name on the line when you sign all this paperwork. So anyway, that's my advice for you guys who just want to inspect and don't really have anything positive to add. And I'll leave it at that. So I guess we're gonna call this video done at this point. A week in the life, I guess we'll call this one. I don't know. Hope you guys have a good week. Hopefully I have some more progress to show you. Oh, I guess I never did really actually go through this. This one is the one for T-Mac. So here's basically, obviously the hardware is not going to be the same. Well, I'm not saying obviously, but maybe I did, maybe I didn't mention it. This one was one of the ones I did the CNC original to, the original scales that I had made on the CNC. And because of what was already done on these, I have to run certain hardware. So I was lucky enough to find a couple of the standoff type things that the original Sautu had, and I'm using those. They obviously don't fit all the way in there yet. I have to fix that. But I am using tie connector pivots with these 1/2 inch thin flats, so I counterboard them so they're nice and flush in here. This stop pin is not going to be the stop pin that's going to be in there. This is just a pilot basically, but this is 3/16. I got to order 1/4 inch stop pins. I'm going to change the hardware. I've got hardware on order. I got some of it here. I got some of it on order. When it all arrives and everything goes good, I got to kind of sort of figure out what we're doing from that point. So I'll set up on that fixture again, and I'll do the counterboards. I need all of them. I'll deck all the ones that people that want the this slab side thin scales. I'll deck all those for all those people. You can have slab side thick scales. You can have a slight contour. You can have a thick contour. I just need to get an idea what you guys want. So that's probably going to be my Monday. Well, I don't know. I might go a little further on this one, but between Monday, Tuesday, that's one of the things I kind of need to dial in before I go too much further, because when I start doing counter bores, I need to know what the depth is to the top of the scale to counter bore that bolt or that pivot head in, if that makes sense. The other thing I can option is looking through some like catalogs and stuff. If somebody wants fancy stuff like a pivot collar with a different kind of pivot or that sort of thing, like, it's not my style, but if you want it, I can make it work for you. But I just need to know that ahead of time before I counter bore yours the same as I do with this one. And then you're like, oh, I wanted that pivot collar. I'm like, all right, well, I'm not making these this time. I'm just ordering the hardware. Like, this is just I got to get it through. So the biggest hurdle on this one is going to be cutting that lock bar, because I have never cut a lock bar. So that process I have to prove that process to myself. So I'm going to take the old mill, which y'all knew I was struggling keeping tolerances on that one, and kind of make it dedicated towards lock bar cutting. At least that's the game plan for right now. We'll see next week if I get it done or not. Hopefully I have a frame next week. If I get the frame done, then the next is going to be the blade. So I got to get with T-Mac and figure out what kind of blade steel he wants, and then I'm probably going to give him a couple options as far as like what blade shapes to use and that sort of thing, or what he wants to use. But hopefully it gives me a little freedom to kind of do what I want to too, because this is the closest looking frame. I don't want the whole rest of the knife to look like a Sautu too. So hopefully he's open to something a little different. Anyhow, we'll figure out the order. We'll figure out who's going on the first run, all that other stuff as we go. So hopefully y'all bear with me. The guys who ain't interested in this project, they just want to see me rambling. I appreciate the hell out of y'all watching. Oh, big shout out to Paul. Paul picked up that a War Pig, which he renamed the War 2, which I thought was a cool name. Hey, works for me, man. Your knife, you name it however you want it. That's kind of how I look at it. So Paul picked up the War 2. I hope he enjoys it. I think, like, a lot of what I do, especially being handmade, is like, you see it in pictures and it looks like one way. When you put it in hand, and it kind of gives you a different opinion. A lot of knives kind of do. And I'm glad that when he got it in hand, he was like, oh, this is really cool. I like this. I think he liked the name or the look of the Chameleon knife, but I don't know if he experienced it like as one of his knives. And after experiencing it, it seemed like he really enjoyed it, which is good. That's kind of where I am. Like, at first, when I first started the Chameleon, I wasn't sure about the look, but when I started operation of it, I was like, this is just like, it's exactly like I still got it in my pocket. Like, this is exactly 100% the most functional thing that I've ever made. Like, it is like, it's just one of those ones that just kind of works for me. So I'm not opposed to doing different stuff. I'm just on the Chameleon slot right now. I don't know how it's gonna look in a Sautu, but we'll figure it out as we go. I guess for now, I'm just going to call it. Like, I could probably sit here for another 30 minutes and ramble. I imagine it's going to be a longer video anyhow. So if y'all made it to the end, appreciate y'all. We'll see you next week. Y'all have a good one.